On this kit, I'm using the heads I would use on my stage and studio kits, which are coated ambassadors. That kit has got clear heads on to give you a different sound. If you like a more modern approach to it, they'll give you a much more resonant, bongy sound. The drums handle it either way, no problem at all. I use all the sizes you see here, or what I use. They're not the only sizes I use. But when I was asked to do the kit, I had to be practical as well as, you know, try and give something good. On stage I use this bass drum size occasionally. Mostly I'd use a slightly bigger one. But that is, for most people, that's totally impractical. A 26-inch bass drum is for certain places only. You couldn't play in a pub with a 26-inch bass drum. I mean, you push using this, it leaves you more of a chance. But I do use a 24, and I always use a 24. The 26 is a little too subsonic. Microphones really don't like that. And although it's a multi-tom kit, occasionally I do something different with it. Anybody remembers the kits I used to play back in the day? It was very simple. Bass drum, 3 tom-toms, that was it. And the thinking behind these 2 toms, the 14 and the 15, being chopped down to a 10-inch size, was that if I want to go back to that simpler kit, I can hang either the 15, which I usually do, or the 14, and play with a single rack here. And because they're cut down, they will actually fit. Most of the standard drums of that size get so deep, you end up playing them like this. So this way you can go back to a simple kit, and any one of these 3 drums has the same depth, so you can just mix and match. And as you can see with that kit there, you can take a totally different approach with it. You can do the Billy Colvin thing, you just go round and round and round forever. Anyway, they're the drums. For me, I've not found anything better. And I did look, you know, I don't actively try and move from one manufacturer to another, but you must always be aware of what's going on. But, well, the drums being great, I've been with these guys now since 1970. And again, I've found nothing that comes close to it for reliability. And on the off chance you break one, which I've done probably once in 40 years, you know, or it gets broken or stolen, you just get another one and stick it up, it sounds exactly the same. Most other cymbal manufacturers don't have that. Each cymbal will be different. And so you have to go into the shop and you really have to test each one to find out what you're going to get. With these guys, it's just so reliable. It's the only thing I would dream of using on stage. So that's that bit. Anybody want to ask me a question about anything? Tell you a funny story if you did.
You say you sing skins the studio and live.
Yeah.
Does the tuning change?
Tuning is always variable, and it's down to the room you're in. This room's okay. It's not overly friendly when you're sat there. It's a little thin. Other rooms are awful. You know, you really have to start messing around with the drums to get anything to happen at all. Other rooms are like going to heaven. You just hit the drum and it can bang. And every frequency you want to hear is there. So you have to be flexible in how you treat it. So that there's no hard and fast rule. The thing that doesn't change much is the snare drum. That's a very personal thing to your ear. Some people like a longer note, looser snares, looser heads for a note with duration. I personally like it to be quite sharp and tight so the notes are definite. It's your choice. It's not like a violin. It doesn't have to be G, E, A, E, you know. If you like the sound of it, it's in tune. The toms you can go up and down with. Bass drums are weird things. You can, you know. I did a great show a couple of weeks back at the Palladium with some fantastic drummers and the Body Ritual Orchestra, which was definitely one of those nights, you know. It was, and the last guy on, best player of the night was Dave Weber. Stunning, stunning, stunning. But even he, the run-through, came to check out my bass drum set, because nobody else had it. So there's certain things, you know, go with what your heart tells you is right for the sound, you know. And sometimes look backwards. So, you know, just what happens now doesn't actually make it the best there is. There's other ways of doing things. And when we played with a big band, we didn't need to have quite the separation on the kit that we would do with a rock band with that power. But just putting a front head on and just using old-fashioned muffling and being really careful with the tuning on the heads. I mean, the sound was just monstrous. It was just the sweetest thing you've heard. And you shook your guts. It was great. People up front go, oh yeah. It wasn't in pain, it was just in, oh, I love that noise. So, you know, even the best players in the world can learn something, what you might have. But it's all in your ear. You know, if it feels right, it generally is right. If it doesn't feel that way, then start tweaking. You know. Thank you for the question.
So just say on the tuning, if we're taking up the question, that Ian came out and tuned one of the kits to his exact specification. And then what we did was measure those settings on a drum bar, and anyone who buys one of the kits will share those settings with them. So,
I've no as far as I'm aware. Yes, sir.
Firstly, thanks for 30 odd years. It's
No.
an absolute pleasure to say that. Secondly, when did you move to using that setup? I think the first time I saw it was around about probably Come Taste the Band.
Well, the Come Taste the Band, I had 4 then. There were little single head melodic tones.
Yeah.
See, I'm always limited by the fact that, like those old guys, I like the right cymbal right there where I can get at it.
Yeah.
Which, for me, negates that possibility. I can't do that. I have to have... I tried it for that, but it was never natural for me to be playing the right up there. I needed that.
Yeah.
So the only way to get all these in is to come up with this triangular thing. It's not sensible. It makes no sense at all. But, you know, all these I treat the way I play as effect drums. My general playing is that. Everything else is a colour. That's it's a lovely thing to have that choice of colours, you know. But when they're not there, I miss them. You know, even if I don't hit them very often, sometimes I don't hit them at all. But if I need them there, they're there. As I said, if I want to go simple, because the toms are cut down to a size you can use, you can have a different kit every night. You know, you really can have different things to think about, and different disciplines you can give yourself. Because if you were to buy a regular pearl kit here, these are 14-10 and 15-10. That would be 12. This would be 14 each deep. I mean, you just couldn't do anything with it. It's almost like a floor tom on a stand, so it's quite limited. So I just came up with this configuration and got all the drums where I could actually reach them. And if I miss one, I hit another one. Yeah, you know. So that's how it happens. My pleasure. So,
going back to your bass drum,
yeah.
I noticed the depth is 14.
Yeah.
Most bass drums now are about 18 or even 20.
Yeah.
So why do you prefer 14?
I started thinking about it, and years ago, they came up with sizes through trial and error, and they ended up with the best relationship in size. It didn't happen in a year or 10 years, but it happened over 30 or 40 years. And they ended up with bass drums which were 14. No, because of rock and roll, trying to get louder and louder, but they thought you had to get bigger and bigger. Well, to my mind, the further away you put the heads, the further the air has to travel to get a reaction on the front head. So if the heads are close together, the action is going to be quicker, and the impact on the front head is going to be greater. So I thought, well, these guys probably did it because it was the best possible solution. And so the last 4 kits I've had, have all had thinner bass drums. And not only do they sound sweet acoustically, our out front guy says they sound better than the deep drums. They're more controllable. And the impact on the front head is great. So, you know, I say sometimes you look back and find out why did they do it that way.
Yeah, I think that some of the best bass drum sounds I've actually ever heard have been from a 4C bass drum with the front skin on as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't just like, you know, oh, let's make it 14. They probably tried 12, 16, and they came to this conclusion. It sounds better. So I thought, well, build me one now. Oh, that's it. You know, it doesn't need to be any more than that. You know. Far more important is the diameter. You know, a 22 is a really easily controllable drum. A little bit of muffling, it'll do most jobs for you. It won't give you that cannon effect. It won't give you that super depth. 24 will, and of course a 26 will as well. Any bigger than that, you start looking over the bass drum unless you can't see it. So, that's it. Thank you. So, I do have a wooden snare. The idea of designing this metal drum, which I did with Pearl, I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that, was to get the impact and the volume from a metal drum. But by sticking with steel, which is fairly dense, you can get a woody sound as well. I mean, John Bonham had that down to a fine art. John used a metal snare, but it sounds like wood. You know, admittedly, it's a lot the way he hits it, and we all know each drummer hits the drum differently, and it's the pull off and the tightness of the head that makes it all work. I've got a wonderful sweet 5-inch wood drum at home. I played it with the Buddy Rich thing because the Buddy Rich colour kit, the whole thing, it was great. But there's certain things for certain jobs. That's all. There was a 5-inch wood, regular pearl, one that just matches that kit. I don't know what it's called. I don't know, wood. I'm not being flippant, but you know, I don't get personally attached to my drums. I find it very difficult to love something that you beat the crap out of. And then you give it to a roadie who gives it to a guy on a plane and drops it from 14 feet. So you know, you can't worry about them too much. So long as they work and the guy sets them up there at 40 bits, I'm usually happy. Another thing we were spoken about is the choice of heads is, I mean, you can get a great drum with a crappy head on it, and it'll sound like a crappy drum. You have a crappy drum with a good head on it, it'll sound okay. You know? And I know that they're not cheap, but the biggest mistake most amateur and semi-pro players make is they'll keep a head on a drum for 14 years, and they wonder why the kit sounds awful. You know, sooner or later you have to bite the bullet and put a new head on. And then for the next, 4 or 5 months, you're playing one of the best kits in the world, just because the head has got tone. But every time you hit it, the middle of the head stretches a little bit. And eventually, no matter how tight you pull it, the middle of it's still loose. And you can never get that tone back. And once it's gone, you've got to turn it into a frisbee. You can't really go with it. You can't play it. It sounds awful. You just have to go. That's one of the costs of playing drums. So they're really important. Whether you like bongy ones like that, or you like slightly denser sound like that, they've got to be good. They've got to be new. You can't. They won't last a lifetime. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, oh sorry, I'm not this side.
Yeah, how long do you keep your heads on?
I spoil myself. My snare drum head will last.
Pay for yourself.
No.
Yeah, if you have to pay for yourself, you can change them.
Yeah, I would do anyway. Just my snare drum lasts with purple, it lasts about 4 shows. Nothing wrong with the head. It's strong, but it doesn't sound the same. The tom head's probably 8 to 10 shows, so they don't get the same leather in. Bass drum heads never. I mean, they're just so strong now, and if you do put those little protective pads over the impact area, I mean, you just don't change it. They just don't break. Somebody might stick a forklift truck for it, but that'd be about it. Please.
Yeah, it's about your mics. I know you use internal mics, or which I've seen you use internal mics.
Yeah.
Was that a decision you made in sound tech, or?
The question is about internal miking on drums. There's two really good reasons for it. One, the separation you can get on each drum in a live situation, and the impact you can get out of each drum is far greater when it's in a controlled environment, which the drum gives you. Also, sometimes when you're working around the world, all you're taking is your back line. You're not taking PA, you're not taking lights. So you're in the lap of the gods of what the PA company gives you. And the last thing you need is 8 light stands doing this, because they're usually old and all wobbly. So wherever they put them at the start of the show, they're usually there by the end of the show. This way, like a guitar, you just take the multi-core and just plug it into the box, and the drums are mic'd. Nothing to worry about. We know that they're going to sound right, and it's no effort for anybody. So it's practical, and it's better. Simple as that. The only mics we use outside the drums are for the cymbals. That's it. We don't need to. And overheads, of course, just to pick up the kit, because that's important. Nowadays, too many drums, kits, don't sound like kits. They sound like each drum's in a separate room. It's so clean and so choked off. You know, if I hit the bass drum, I want the snare drum to go shh. I want to hear the cymbals shimmer. It's a drum kit. It's not 12 different instruments, you know. They're meant to talk to each other when you play. So we use overheads together.
What's your views on the bass trumpet with the fixed linkage and chain linkage?
Chain linkage is stronger. It's not smooth. If you got a leather strap, it's the smoothest thing. But of course, you know, they don't take the clattering that we tend to give it. If you're playing in a lounge tree or a quartet, no problem at all. But you know, you sometimes got to go for brute force over technology, and they work all right. Bass drum pedals now, to my mind, they're all too complicated. There's too many bits to fall off, and they do. There's too many things to adjust. Basically, the simpler you can make it, and the lighter you can make it, the better the pedal usually is. But nobody wants to go that route anymore. Everything is heavier and with more adjustments. I just think it's overblown. But that's the world I live in now, so I choose the best one I can for me. You know, it's like trying to swim upstream. Eventually, you'll drown. You can't do it. You know, so the product I would really love doesn't exist anymore. So I use the best I can of what is around.
So you'll say that having an Ian Paice bass drum pedal would be quite forward?
Yeah, I don't think Premier would sell us the old Paice 250. The old Premier 250 was absolutely perfect. Had one spring, a cam, and a footplate, and that was it. And it was light, and it was fast and heavy, and if it broke, you riveted it, and it was mended, that was it. Very, very simple, but even they screwed it. They made the 252, which was useless. So even when you've got a perfect thing, people are too silly to know. Should leave it alone. Anyway, there was, yes sir?
What was your funniest on stage experience?
Right. Well, a couple I started. Just before Purple was formed, Rod Evans and I, the singer, were in the same band. We had a blazing row before some little club show. And as we started to play, this had not gone away. Me being the drummer, I said, it's all over now. But him being the singer, no, he wasn't going to let it go. So between each little verse when he wasn't singing, he just come and slowly start undoing bits of the kit. Just a little bit, half a turn there, kick a cymbal here. By about the third song, all the cymbals, drums falling over like this. And in the end, all I had left was a snare drum. Because everything else had fallen over. He came and just took the bass drum off stage. And there was nothing else. By which time the rest of the band were on their backs laughing. The audience didn't know what the hell was going on. And I was just totally new then. What do I do now? So that was one. Another one was with Keith Moon, God bless him. Again, before Purple. We were doing a package tour in England. And here's the bill. Imagine this. Top of the bill, the Who. Second on the bill, the Cream. Third on the bill were the Merseys. Anybody remember the Merseys there? Fourth on the bill was, I can't remember something else. My band, we opened up, we played 3 songs right from people getting their ice creams and shit. And stuff, sorry. Anyway, in the setup, everybody knew the tour was a stiff. We couldn't sell more than 3 rows in theatres. 3 rows of people, 2,000 seaters. Couldn't sell it. And we knew after 3 days the whole tour was being pulled. So by that time, the second day, Moon had obviously lost interest, so he started to have some fun. So he was going around every drummer saying, "Got any spare bits of hardware?" So we all concocted this huge stand. It went up, went up, went up, went up. It must have been about 20 feet. And at the top was this tiny little cowbell like this. And Moon spent the whole of the show blobbing sticks up the cowbell. And of course, missing every time. And other guys, what's he doing? Anyway, towards the end of the show, he just lobs like this. It hits the cowbell with this resounding donk, and then comes straight down and smacks him straight down. And the Who were a very loud band. All you heard was, "Ah!" Moon holding his, because no drumming going on, the whole thing just stopped. There was blood coming out of his head. And again, the rest of the band holding their side of his digital. It's so funny, this bloody great stand though, just went in like Jack and the Beanstalk time. They were good times. There's lots of them, I don't think we've got time to keep on going right now.
Have you used ear protection over the years?
Pardon? It's too late for me. My ears are completely connected. I'm one of those guys that has a TV on, as far as it will go. Everybody else goes, "You turn it down, I can just about hear it." It's that thing, you lose those frequencies of human speech. So I hear music okay, here, tops and bottoms, just that middle bit I have problems with, but clouting these things at 45 odd years with no ear protection. And at the time when rock bands became really loud on stage, there was no monitoring, you had no control over it, it was just bloody great big amps churning stuff out, and you're right in the middle of it, creating your own, mayhem as well. So it's no surprise, really. Occupational hazard. When it gets too bad, I'll get somebody to stick an electric gizmo on my head and make it all better again. But not yet. So.
Yeah, thank you for inspiring me to play drums originally. I've got some old Paice crash cymbals, which I bought a new one from the guys at DrumWright's a few months ago. The family sound still seems there. Do these cymbals wear out a bit better, or am I shot as well?
Good question. I've got some really old Paices, and they're a little duller. The top end isn't quite the same. Now, I don't know whether that is the years, or it's the mileage. Having gone around the world 3 or 4 times with different temperatures and damp and the whole thing. That may be one thing. Of course, the other thing we don't do with our cymbals, we don't actually clean them very often. And as they start to look dull, it probably affects the sound. I think if you clean them so they go back to like the factory, but you probably get a lot more top end out of them that way, But quarter-inch of grime and grease on it probably doesn't help a great deal.
Yes, they've got grime on them.
There you go, yeah. You have to get to chat what does. So.
On the orchestral, did you have 2 strush cymbals on top of each other?
Yeah, that's my roadie just being creative. Yeah. He said, "Yeah, do that." That's louder, that's good. Yeah. No, it's his idea, don't deserve it. It's still just as hard to hit, but it's so small and missing the damn thing. Anything else?
Cymbal sizes. Have you ever made a bit smaller, or you always have a little big size? I would be very jealous of something that sounds so great. That's very good. Go ahead.
The big cymbals came when I got the first big Ludwig drum kit. I say that was a big kit. That was a 26 by 14, but that was a 16-inch by 10 rack tom, which Ludwig made for me, an 18-inch floor and a 20-inch floor. So I had the cymbals match that kit. So that's why the 24 and the 22. It's just to match the size of the drums. And I just got used to the sound. When I play a smaller cymbal in the deep vocal environment, I miss that duration of note. You know, when I'm playing different things, I'll go down the size of it. I go down the size in the studio. There's no point. But this is the only thing which would not be what I play on stage. And the reason is they don't make what I play on stage anymore. I reckon I can only get about another 3 of them out of Paice. I've got 3 children. I think they want a child for each cymbal, I think. That'd be it. Because I use a 22 chime. The biggest I make now is a 20. I'm sure if I twist their arm, they might help me out. But that's it for now. You know. Sounds good. But 22 is a little more dynamic. Anyone else, or are we all done? Time for the part. Oh, sorry.
What made you stick with Ringo and Bass?
Because I'm a traditionalist. I like the sound of these heads. These heads were made to be as close as they could be to real calfskin heads. That was the design plan. Vellum heads are, by today's standards, very, very fragile. And also they are, depending on the weather. If it was a damp day, all your heads would detune, right? So you tighten them up. Then if you forgot to detune them again, they got hot and dry, they just split, because it's skin. So these were designed to get as close as they could with an artificial, what's the word I'm looking for? An artificial product to get that sound. Now other heads, which have come along subsequently, are to create different and new sounds. And they're all good, I just prefer that one. I mean, very easy demonstration. It didn't sound any different, did it? That's different. That's got a more top-end tack to it. And I like that. I like the warmth of it. Because what happens is, because they're coated, there's actually it's a built-in dampener on the head itself. It's the same material. That's the word I was looking for. It's the same material, it's just mylar. That is a great story. Years ago, everybody wanted American drum heads because they sounded better than British heads. We had a thing called Everplay. Everplay is made in Britain. What nobody knew was, and what Everplay didn't know either, was all the mylar sent to America was made in Britain. And the mylar that Everplay used to make the heads in Britain came from America. So, you can't go figure. Little piece of nonsense for you. You'd be around long enough, you learn all this rubbish. So.
I've played the Burton tribute band for quite a few years, and I love it if you showed me how to play the brilliant drum fills of Black Knights, how you play it properly.
Well, you know, the thing with that is, do you know the story of Black Knight?
No.
Well, that's good too. We were told by our management, who were not really what you might call artistically minded, that we had to go in the studio and make a single. We'd just done like 3 weeks on the road, and we had a day off. We had another 3 weeks on. Let's go in and make a single. Write a song. You can do it. Yeah. So we duly went into the studio about 11 o'clock in the morning. Anybody got any ideas? I've got this. No. Got this. No. This went on until about 7. Nothing. Look around the studio. Pub. Yeah, pub. So around the corner studio, of course, there was a little pub. And we stayed there till you know, nothing out time. By which time, everybody was a little less together than when they went in. But that's when Blackmore said, you know, years ago, Ricky Nelson did a version of Summertime. And the guitar riff was really good. Just went, da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da, Summertime, da-dee-da. So, well, why don't we just do that and extend it? So, all right. da-da-di-da-da-di-da-da-di-da-da-di-da-da-da. There's a riff. So anyway, Dylan was staggering around this time. He said, okay, we've got a simple lyric, something I can remember. It was pretty dark night. Black night, that's good. So black, you think of the lyric, black night, don't feel so bright. Can't see, dark light. You know. This is not, you know, Jerome Kern or Paul. And so, you know, he started working the lyrics. I thought, well, you know, it's a shuffle, what can I do to do it? So I'll do drum fills that don't fit. So that'll be alright, so we do that. And I work, just cross in the rhythm, you know. We stuck all this together in 1 hour, we had Black Night. It's a bit of fluff, you know. But we were told to go in and make a single, so we did it, but we had to be pissed to do it. So, you know, it's, I use it quite a lot. It's called misdirecting. It's where you've got a rhythm and you change the emphasis around to just confuse it. You know what I mean? It's so hard to do this without music. I did it with pictures of home as well, because the pulse of pictures of home is da 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 da. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I broke the 1, 2, made it into 3. So I started it with the triplet thing, just to confuse the listener of where the 1 would be. You know. Just using little tricks like that. They're not difficult to play. It's the thinking of them that takes a little more time.
Well, I've always played Black Night when I'm in sideway. So
yeah.
That's
the problem. I can't help you with that. And you have to remember, you know, there's wonderful drummer jokes, we all know them. But, you know, the drummer, to be effective, has to think musically, has to be a musician. When we did Fireball, it needed something dramatic and powerful to start it. And I tried the pattern of the opening part of it with 1 bass drum. And I could just about get the nerve going like that. There was no power to it. It was also a bit wussy and, you know, not really happy. The idea was right, but I needed another dimension to it. Fortunately, the Who had been in the studio the night before, and Keith's kit was still there. The roadies hadn't taken it away. So his bass drums were there. So I thought, well, I can't play 2 bass drums, I still can. So if I put another one there, play the same pattern, and what would be my hi-hat would now be another bass drum note, it might work. So we lugged one of Keith's bass drums over and played the same thing, and it worked. So the idea was right, but, you know, I needed another tool to do it. So when you listen to it, the bass drum on that side is Keith's, and this one's mine. Just so you know. Okay? This is important stuff. So.
You sound like you were a drinking band, but could you match Ken Jones's band for it?
Can we do what?
Could you match Ken Jones's band for it?
Well, you know, drinking is not a competition. It might start out that way, but it never ends up that way. You know, yeah, American bands of that period were not drinking bands. They were smoking or druggy bands. That was their growing up culture. I mean, I grew up outside Oxford, in Bicester. You know, that's where I spent my formative years. Drugs, what drugs? Not only couldn't you if you wanted to, you didn't want to. scary things, eh? Being naughty was sneaking into the pub before you were 16 years old. You get an illicit pint, that was it. So this sort of led on, you know, in later years, it was, you went for a drink, you didn't do anything else. And we didn't live in a big city, you know, where that temptation may have been there. So it was for us, it was never important. The drink was always far more important than trying to find a temporary friend for the night. That was it. You tell me what's more fun. Yes, I am. Some of which I glory in, some of which made me take a little longer to learn things than if I had somebody there to say it wrong.
How do you know what to teach yourself?
How do I?
How do you know what to teach yourself?
All I knew is that when I started to play, it was important that I listen to the good players and listen to everything. I mean, I think it was probably easier when I was a kid than it is now. You could hear country music, not a lot, you could hear jazz, you could hear pop music, you could hear it all, and you took a little bit from everywhere, you know. But within a year of playing, I realized that the good players had an identity. They all had something different, whether it was a sound, or a syncopation, a swing, a technique. They all had something different. And you could almost pick out who was playing before you looked at the liner notes of an album. You know, you could tell when it was crook. Massive sound, not a great deal of technique, but swung, you know, real swing. You could tell when it was buddy playing, just stuff that nobody else could do. You could tell when it was like Philly Joe Jones. It was just different things that guys did. It came into rock and roll. You could tell when it was Ginger. You could tell when it was Mitch Mitchell. You knew when it was Bonham. These guys kept their identity. But they did it because they took stuff from everywhere. And they came up with their own solution, their own formula, which was that little ingredient that came from inside themselves. So that's, when I look back at being self-taught, that's the great side of it. You come up with a different solution to the problem. And it's your solution, it's nobody else's. But you do spend a lot of time working out the simplest of things. Which, you know, if there's a guy there saying, no, you do it like this one. I mean, for about 6 months, I thought I invented the baritone. I thought I invented this rudiment. I was going around showing guys this. Let's see this, look at this. And then the guy said, yeah, it's a baritone. Look, it's this. Yeah, it's a baritone. It's a rudiment. What are rudiments? See, I didn't know that. All I know is I watched players and I tried to copy what their hands did. I had no idea what it is they were doing. But I knew that this hand did 2 notes and this one did 1. So that for me was the only way I could do it. There was nobody there to ask. You know, nobody there to go to and get an hour a week just to speed things on. But I had the other benefit of always being on the road. I mean, he was a 15-year-old kid. My little semi-pro band would do 3 shows a week. And then when I turned pro at 17, I was doing 6, 7 shows a week. No time to practice, or you learn everything on stage. And because you're on stage every night, you saw the guys. And you took a little bit from him, a little bit from him, and sometimes a little bit from her. But you took from everywhere. And you took the good bits, of course. You took the bits you could play. Because some stuff you couldn't play, so you couldn't do anything with it. But it was taking that big spectrum of music. And with what's inside you, it came out different. And I think if you're taught 100% from a book, you don't get that. Everything tends to come out the same way. Everything comes out as like a formula. And I'm not going to put anybody down who plays now, because some of the people out there are just technically mesmeric, and they do wondrous stuff. But I don't know who they are. I don't know the difference. Everybody's got the same sound. So everybody's learning from the same book. And I don't know the person. And I think it's important we know the person. We know Miles Davis because he did something different. He sounded different. That's what's important. And because you know him, you connect with him in a different way than you do somebody that is impersonal. So I think we had the benefit of being able to come up with our own way of doing it. Thanks. How are we doing time-wise, Chris?
Yeah, doing fine. Take another couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to spiel about the kit.
Yeah.
Can you play, what you were saying before, can you play on fact that everyone sort of uses a click track nowadays?
Well, click tracks can be your best friend or your worst enemy. If you fight them, you get nowhere. And not everybody is good at every tempo. There are certain things I find easier, things I find difficult. On those difficult things, a click track, if you embrace it, will make things easier. You will never have the freedom that you have without it, but you'll probably get a better performance of something you're probably not naturally adapted to do, So, if you've got to use it, make it your friend, don't fight it. But if you don't have to use it, it's great. But it's the times we live in now. People expect machine time. They don't expect strict time anymore. You couldn't make a record the same way as it was, say, made in the 50s, when rock and roll was just starting and everything moved together like this. The whole band swayed and moved up and moved back. Wouldn't sound right anymore. When you listen to the low records, it's magnificent. Because the whole band move as one. We're not talking 4 people, we're talking about 15 people. And they all do this together, and they all push into the middle eight, and they all pull into a verse. That's the way it naturally is meant to be. We don't have that anymore. So if we're going to live with this thing, we've got to make it our friend. One more question. All right, a few more questions.
Do you think it's important, I mean, you have a particular style that you look probably playing this type of music the best or that you play, but do you think that people who are starting out as drummers and think, I want to be a rock drummer, it's important for them to get a grasp of other styles as well and not just be pigeonholing one thing?
I think they'll have more fun if they do look at the bigger picture. It's all very well loving AC/DC. I think they're great. But as a drummer, it's one thing. Now they do it really, really well. I mean, to play so little and make it feel right is not easy. I find that very difficult not to do anything and to do it with that sort of solidity. But the more things you listen to, the more things you can bring into your own repertoire, the more fun you have. And it's all about fun. When you're a kid.
I think what I mean by that is that it's really important to use it to be a musician.
Well, it's important to me. It's important to me. It might not be important to somebody else. I think it's important. It's like having a toolbox. The more tools you've got, the better job you can do. You can't do everything with a hammer. There's other things you need to make it work. And the more knowledge you have, and the more inspiration, the more different ways of approaching something you take, the easier that job becomes. So for me, it's important. Other guys, I just like this and I don't like anything else, and that's okay too. Because it's about having fun. I mean, how many drummers here? Okay. How many people will make to go into their practice room and play drums and when they do want to? You? God, there's always one, isn't there? If you're a violin player or a piano player, chances are your parents made you do it. Most kids didn't want to do it. A few, maybe some. I don't know. I don't know anything to this guy. Drummers who didn't want to play drums because it was fun. You can leave now. So, it's fun. It's a way of having something yourself which makes you happy. And if it makes somebody else happy as well, that's pretty good too. But you do it because you enjoy it. So